You got to start by like a certain time, otherwise the Facebook feed goes away, and we can't have that because we're live in front of like thousands and thousands of people on Facebook.
Live and uncensored.
Yeah. Beep. So I think we're live. I think we're here. Hey, you guys, this is Johnny Beane, and really quickly, I want to announce that Book Soup presents Stephen Rosen discussing his new book, Tone Chaser, January 9th, Monday at 7 p.m. That's down in Hollywood, California. I'll be there. I think our friend Music Therapy Laz will be there. So maybe we'll do some sort of live something. So from Hollywood. Yeah, January 9th. I believe that's a Tuesday, so that might actually take the place of this show, January 9th. So anyway, if you guys don't have it yet, check out Tone Chaser by Steve Rosen. And if you're in Hollywood, come on down. Book Soup, January 9th, 2023. Wow, that's next year. Actually, it's next month. This year has just flown by.
Time just flies by when you're having fun.
I know. It's crazy. All right, we're going to do it. You guys ready? And we got a special guest tonight, too. All right, let's do this. Here we go.
Hey, this is Michael Anthony right here, and you are watching exclusively Van Halen on the Johnny Beane TV. Keep it there. Woo! See ya!
Whoa. I like the new fade that StreamYard is doing here. See that? Did you guys notice? It just like faded right from the pre-recorded video to the other pre-recorded video. No, I'm just kidding. We are live, you guys. We are live. It is December 6, 2022, 8:11 p.m. Eastern, 5:11 Pacific, 6:11 Mountain, 7:11 CJ time. CJ Chilvers. What's up? I think every Van Halen fan knows that name because you were just telling us how you won like a huge prize, right?
Oh yeah, the Pulitzer.
The Pulitzer,
that's me. Yeah, it's not the New York Times journalist with a very similar name. It's me. Yeah.
Wow. It's awesome getting what do you call it? On Twitter, getting tweets meant for somebody else, if that's the case.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Getting caught in those conversations. That's pretty good.
He writes books about war, and yeah.
Well,
it's more serious.
Yeah, I mean, you did Roth and Sammy, Roth versus Sammy, man. That's
there you go. I don't disagree. It's they fight wars so they can come back and be a part of these wars.
Yeah,
this is what we fight for.
Yes. So you guys, CJ Chilvers, you guys know him. The Van Halen Encyclopedia is his book. Yeah. And we'll be talking about that. I'm sorry, I have somebody sent me a copy of it years ago, and it's somewhere here in my my mess. But we were talking before we went live, and you said that's probably a good thing that I lost it. So
definitely, this is the version you want. This is first edition.
It looks like a Bible.
That's a factory second here, so I kept this one. It's got a little error in the gold stamping.
Ah, it's like in the Kramer logo on the beak neck.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
And I was in a meeting at work, and somebody actually looked this up on eBay. And it was $300.
Oh my gosh!
So I guess the box of these I have left is my retirement fund.
Oh, dude,
That's it.
Right on, man.
And then this is the second edition, and it's absolutely awful. I would.
That's the one that I
recommend
have, and it looks just like that. Like the front page is like bent over and
Oh,
kind
it's
of ripped a little
terrible.
bit.
Yeah. It's made by Amazon, and it's exactly the quality you would expect when
So
made
you
by
can just
Amazon.
go on Amazon and order your book straight from there?
You could, yeah. I would suggest the Kindle version. I brought it down to 99 cents for now. And then while we're working on the third edition.
Man.
Because I didn't want anybody to have to pay for information that's that old. I think the latest edition that's out there on Kindle is like maybe 2003.
Cool. Right on. Is that also available on, like, let's say, like iTunes? Like iTunes book?
Yeah,
version
it's
or
everywhere.
whatever?
It's everywhere, or just email me and I'll send you one. I don't care at that. It's so old, but there's 20 years of updates to catch up on. That's why I'm doing this like third edition in public, is to show like how much work goes into every single entry. It could be days, weeks, months.
And I bet there's going to be a whole entire chapter on Wolfgang playing the Taylor Hawkins shows. Because there's a lot in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to respect every member who's ever been in Van Halen and detail the career quite a bit. So absolutely, I'm going to cover everything Wolfgang.
Yeah, and as a fan,
Right
I
on.
mean, we finally got a chance to see, can Wolfie play his dad's guitar parts? And he took any question, it's gone. He can play that stuff.
And I love how he emphasized that he did that through really hard practice, that he practiced for a long time to get that good.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad that he said that too, because a lot of that's this. I mean, being on Twitter and getting confused with somebody else, you can get a lot of hate from people, and especially somebody like him, where people, they just expect one thing and they just want one type of thing, and I'm glad to see that he's doing what he's doing and putting out his own music, doing it his way, and it's still Van Halen. It's a new generation of Van Halen. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I can see just from the tweets that I get, like ricocheting off of him, like how much he goes through. So I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
And Wolfie's currently out on the road in Europe, opening for who are they opening for right now? Big tour they're on.
Is it Tremonti? Tremonti or the other one? Which?
Oh yeah, Ultra Bridge.
John Biel, which Alter Bridge?
Yeah, and but I
Right.
think he's also doing some shows. You know how Pantera just recently got back together and they're opening up for some big show. I think Wolfie's on that bill. I saw
Right.
it somewhere.
Currently, and then he's going to be opening it for Metallica
That's what it is.
next year or something, or the next couple years, I think. Something.
Can
like
you
that.
imagine seeing Wolfie on stage with Zakk Wylde doing a Pantera song?
Yeah,
That would be
I can see that.
something at least.
Especially, here's a good time to drop this, you guys. This was mentioned in a tweet from Guitar World. I just want to mention this real quick. I'm actually going to do a different video on this, but I just want to mention real quickly. If you guys saw the latest edition of Guitar World, Wolfgang is on the cover, and some of the things that they had mentioned was brand new things from EVH Gear, in the works, like possible 24 fret, like that guitar you just showed us earlier, like a 24 fret version of that, and a hardtail version of that, the 5150 series guitars. So I'll do a totally separate video about that later on. I've been meaning to, but I've been really busy, myself. But I was going to.
Rico. Rico's in the chat. We got a lot of guys in the chat.
Rico.
Lab's in there.
Hey. Yeah. So anyway, I'll do a separate video on the new stuff from EVH Gear. But the reason I brought that up, and I think that was a good point, because you had said, "Oh, can you imagine seeing him on stage? Wolfgang playing on stage, or some metal bands playing on stage with 5150 series 24 fret guitars, hardtail guitars, stuff like that." And
Yeah, Eddie was not opposed to that. I saw that article, and it was just like Eddie was opposed to hardtails, but he was never. I mean, they're featured on every album, and there was hardtail PV Wolfgangs, which I loved. They were great. Yeah, I can't wait to see. But yeah, no, that's the Nuno Wolfgang, or the Nuno 5150.
Oh, where is it? Every time Nuno is mentioned.
Yeah, grab it. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, so the story behind this is that in May of 2021, I tweeted out that there should be a 5150 modeled after Nuno and his guitars, because his guitars they're selling. They can't keep them around, and they're outrageously expensive. So I was like, why don't we just do that, like ash and ebony? I mean, that would be a perfect 5150. So exactly 1 year after that, they put out a press release that they were doing one. And I got my pre-order in right away.
And is that made in Mexico?
Perfect.
Is that from down in Mexico there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the back, says, made in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, so CJ, are you saying that you would tweet it out that you would like to see one of those guitars, and they actually made that guitar?
Because of that.
Tagged,
fine, you got it, bro.
Yeah. No, I tagged all the people in the Van Halen community that have stuck with me, and Wolfgang too. And it was just weird that exactly 1 year after that tweet, the press release came out that they were doing it. And, coincidence or not, I'm glad they did it.
So that is the EVH CJ Chilvers FUTONE 50 series limited edition ash.
No one's ever going to admit
guitar.
That. No, even if it's true, no one would ever admit it.
It's got to be true. I think it is. From now on, that's the CJ guitar, man.
I was begging him for it because, Nuno came out with the Nelly, and I was like, okay, he just keeps blowing up. So why not?
I got to get one now, man.
There's Rock Daddy in the chat. Did you want to go through your channel members?
Yes, Zimms, thank you so much for reminding me. You guys, here on YouTube, we have channel membership, and the top tier of channel members are the executive producers, and they are, here we go, Stephen Franklin, Michael Smith, Music Therapy Labs, who's trying to call me right now, Majestic PB and J Cat, Thomas Santiago, Guitar Man 45, Sherman Callahan, Thomas Santiago again, John Moronic, R. Habs, David Allen Wright, Warlag, Michael B. Live, and let's keep going, Robbie Stingle, Six Fingered Assault, Sean Shreds, Majestic PB&J Cat is back, Kurt Rocks, Matt's Tuba View, Amanda Peters, CC, Hit It CC, OU812, and Janice Lala. Those are our newest channel members, the newest. So we got the top tier and the newest, and they're kind of mixed up currently because I need to update the list. But channel membership here on Johnny Beane TV, it's just an awesome thing. And again, if you'd like to become a channel member, click that join button below, right below the 20 thumbs ups. Smash those thumbs ups, you guys. And if you'd like to help support the channel, support these shows, any super chats will magically change the color of these lights back here. It's the newest in technology here in Santa Cruz. And so any super chats, any questions, comments. There. Yes. We'll magically change the color of those lights in real time. Your question or comment will be highlighted in the chat over there, and you will get a shout out on Twitter instantly, and it is awesome. And so we're live on YouTube. We're also live on Facebook, Johnny Beane TV Facebook page. We have what are called Facebook Stars, which is it's like a super chat, but over on the Facebook side. And speaking of Facebook, we're also live in the exclusively Van Halen group at 62,000 members. CJ, are you in that group?
I don't know. I haven't been on Facebook in years. I'm ashamed to say that because my sister works there. But,
oh, dude. Oh, I just got excited. We're gonna have to talk, man. I love Facebook. We're also, dude, Facebook, EVH Gear Fans Live group, EVH Gear Fans Live page, Johnny Beane TV group. I think we're at about 1,000 members there. Let's see. What else do we normally say here? Thank you again to Van Halen News Desk for the feature. The past week and a half, VHND, Eric and Jeff featured 2 of our videos. The one with Jim DeCola, which, by the way, you guys, I'll be meeting with Jim DeCola in Nashville in about a month. I'm going to Gibson, so we'll get to
Nashville.
Going to Nashville.
Going to take your pickup truck and put it in the back and load up your dog and your chickens.
Yep, everything. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, maybe we'll do some sort of a live thing. So I'll be hanging out with Jim DeCola, with Al John Go, Gibson, Kramer. So it'll be awesome. So again, thank you again, Van Halen News Desk, for featuring a few of our shows. And finally, please follow me on Twitter, and please confuse me with award-winning people on Twitter. That would just be the most amazing thing. So
maybe
Zimm.
Elon will start following you on Twitter.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Britney Spears follows me. I'm not kidding. This is true. Britney Spears follows me. Joe Satriani follows me.
But
Let's
Elon
see.
Musk, he can buy you a brand new Tesla, or give you one.
Just give you.
He could put you on a spaceship, shoot you up, and
Hey, you can ask Wolfgang for a guitar.
Yeah.
It happens.
Man, that's unbelievable, dude.
You can.
That's what I love
when you're
about
in
Twitter.
Nashville, you
It's
can
just
go
like-
to Carter's and say, "Hey, man, there's this guitar shop in Mesa, Arizona. I'd be worried, you guys, because there's this guitar shop in Mesa, Arizona. It's really good. It's called Zimm's."
By the way,
They would laugh.
you guys, we do giveaways here on Tuesdays. I've got a copy of Pretty Woman, backed with Dancing in the Street. 45.
Great
We'll be giving this away tonight. All you gotta do is participate in the chat. That's all you gotta do. And also, maybe we'll give this away too. I already have them in the envelope. I found these.
Van Halen was great at those cover tunes.
Oh yeah, well that's how they started.
Like growth.
Yes. Oh, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. First of all, so we'll be giving away a Van Halen 45, and I found some of these lying around. So
Zimm's guitars.
so
Put
let-
one when you go to Carter's vintage guitars in Nashville. Stick that thing on the door for me.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. Well, I was going to give them
Take me out
away,
there
but
with the razor blade scraping
okay.
it off.
All right, I'll be spamming Nashville with the Zimm stickers.
Yeah.
Man, well, hey, CJ, yeah, let's get it. Let's talk about that, man, because that's one of the reasons why I invited you. I mean, I've been meaning to ask you to come on the show, but I just happened to see your tweet because I got it confused with. No, I'm just kidding. I'll drop that. I just happened to see your tweet, and you had talked about the Van Halen song "Growth." The 1980, the ending track on Women, Children First, the one that originally it fades out. But if when you got the CD, it actually stopped, and I freaked out when I first heard that. I remember sitting there in my room with the headphones, and like the song, like it kept going for a second. I'm like, huh, and then it stopped. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that's one of the updates I got, from people reading the post, is that on the newer vinyl, it stops too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool, man.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's going in.
Right on.
At the end of Women and Children First, they had this little song that was 8 seconds long or something.
I think it's a total of 15. I think
It's a total of 15 seconds, and so they were trying to make that the first song of the next album, which would have been the Mean Street
Fair Warning.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fair Warning.
but
It never happened.
And that comes from a Guitar World interview, and I was questioning it. It's part of my article. Is like, is that really what happened? Is that just the story they made? Like, if that were true, why were they playing that in '79 on tour? Like, I had so many questions, and then, but I've since heard, since I published the article that, yeah, it really was, at least insiders who were there believe it really was supposed to go on to the next album.
Mm-hmm. That's what I always heard,
Yeah.
and I thought, that'd be a cool thing. But it was interesting, man, reading your tweet, because you had said how somebody had asked Siri or Spotify to play, explain
Yeah,
that.
I heard
it's very
it
interesting.
On Dave and Dave Unchained podcasts. Like I mine it for little tidbits that I can put in the updates to the book, just like every podcast about Van Halen or anything that comes out. And that was one that really caught my ear. It was like some guy, he just asked for, to play Women and Children First. And the album that came up was Women and Children First, but it was from 1970 and by a band called Ancient Greece. And the first song on the album starts up and it's Growth. But it then continues into a whole song that's called Freedom Train is the name of the song. And
I heard it.
And they played them back to back. And yeah, it's the same. It's even the same drum intro, which they don't do on tour. I didn't think in '79. I don't know if they did the drum intro. And sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But on the album, they did. And so that's what really got me. And at first, I was like, okay, they sound very similar. Then I was like, wait a minute, both albums are called Women and Children First. Like, what are the odds? What's going on here? So then I had to dig into it and find out who this band was and if they would have crossed paths with Van Halen at any time. And basically what I came up with was, yeah, they might have. They were in the same circle of bands that Eddie and Alex really loved. And Eric Clapton apparently really loved the guitar player. And Eddie loves Eric. So, it was just like in that circle, they very well could have heard it.
Right. And let's just remind me again, what's the band and the album called? I want to put the link in the chat so people can hear this.
Well, it's deceptive because it's not the band's real name. But as it shows up in any streaming service, it's Ancient Greece is the name of the band. And Women and Children First is the name of the album. Freedom Train is the name of the song.
Freedom Train, okay.
The real name of the band is Strawberry Dust. And they later became Racing Cars, who had a hit in 1977 with a song called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Or something like that.
Right. Let me see. Oh, I don't know if that's so many different names. I don't know if I can find. I found it the other day because you have your Substack, and
I just started a Substack to update the book in real time.
Let's just post that. What's your?
It's just vanhalen.substack.com.
Okay, let me see if I can find that. Van Halen .substack. .com. Let's go ahead and throw that in the. Here we go. Okay, so everybody, you can actually go to CJ's Substack, and you can you have all this stuff in there, right? Like because I remember seeing like embedded this video that you're talking about, and I played it. I was on my phone and I played it, and I'm like that sounds like Growth.
Yeah,
it was very weird.
It's so close.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So in the chat, go to vanhalen.substack.com, and that's CJ's Substack, and you guys, people, they can subscribe, right? They can subscribe to it.
Oh yeah, it's totally free. Yeah, I left it open for any supporters because this is going to take a lot of money to actually do this. I know it from previous experience. Yeah, it's going to take some help, but it's a labor of love. So I don't care if this takes another 20 years. I'm going to get it all updated.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Let's see. So anyway, so here's the whole thing. Actually, here's the actual link. If you click into it onto your post, it takes you to the post, which is this one here. So anybody, all the links are in there as far as Van Halen's Growth track, the Ancient Greece Freedom Train track, and then basically the story where you were talking about, I mean, how all this stuff kind of happened. So
Yeah,
very.
there's a lot of things like I feel like there were kind of gray area, like the lead singer kind of he appeared on a lot of albums in the early '80s. Worked with a lot of producers, sang lead on, he would guest appear on big artists, and I was like, maybe that was another way they could have interacted. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Racing Cars also opened for Bad Company. But I checked the dates, and Van Halen wasn't intersecting with them at any time. So I don't know. Lots of dead ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very interesting. Crazy stuff. Zims,
But
what do you think about it?
This happens. I was just going to say this happens like once a year. There's a new mystery, and this just happened to be this year's.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's just kind of like popping around and just interesting things. I mean, because CJ, you writing a Van Halen book. When did you first write?
What made you decide
encyclopedia?
to write a book about Van Halen and all this?
It was the Van Halen mailing list back in 96, 97. And that was just my project on the list. Everybody had a project on the list, and some of them were like the un-CDs. I don't know if you've ever heard of those.
I have those.
Yeah, and that was like a world search for the best recordings of every unreleased Van Halen song. And then they would, I don't know how they processed them, but they would process them further, and then they would have the CDs pressed. But so this was my project. It was the Van Halen Encyclopedia, and I gathered like about, I think there's 200 contributors to the first one, and in a couple of years worth of work, just organizing it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And
how many of the old concerts did you attend back in the day?
The old ones?
Yeah.
None, because by the time Roth was out of the band, I think I was 9. So
Okay.
I'm on the younger side of Van Halen fans, but I definitely remember Hot for Teacher.
I always thought I was.
Video.
So, Dane, we got so many questions, man. We probably should have written some stuff down.
Is there? Could we do a quick sort of rundown at the book and tell me what's
Sure.
chapter 1? What's going on in chapter 1?
It's not really like we just decided we had a publisher involved, and we were like, do we do this chronologically, alphabetically, and basically we decided to do it just like an encyclopedia, which is alphabetically. There's a timeline in the beginning, a huge index in the back, and we just did it like that because that gave us the most freedom to mention random things in the middle of the book that don't tie to a date or anything, but are just fun kind of facts. Of Eddie's license plate at some time when, that kind of thing. It was just stupid little things.
So it doesn't really start off like Eddie Van Halen was born in 19.
There's that too.
Okay.
It starts out with this, where the parents and where they were born and all that kind of stuff. But it's a timeline, but kind of like an overview to kind of get you into, like, okay, here's a chapter of the important dates, the milestones, and then you can get into the nitty gritty, each song broken down. But there's also each article that was ever written about them, every single that was released in every country, every tour dates, including the set list and who opened and all that.
So it's right now it's December of 2022. What were they doing 40 years ago, December of 1982? We're going to make him get his book out.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I could find mine now.
40 years ago today, or 40 years ago this month, did they take hiatus over the winter break and stuff like that?
On today, they were...
No, they were on tour.
Off. Yeah, they had a day off between Raleigh and Lakeland, Florida.
Gosh.
So they had a day off. So
Wow.
yesterday, 40 years ago yesterday, they played Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yep, there's no bootleg available that I have shown.
And what was the venue in Raleigh?
Reynolds Coliseum. They got
Wow.
So I
So
also have in
Reynolds
here
was-
whether a bootleg is
Dang.
available, video or audio.
Okay. So that's an
Wow.
encyclopedia. Holy crap. That is everything.
Yeah.
And so
They
then
tried to
40
be
years
everything.
ago today, they took the day off so that they could travel to where's tomorrow's date? 40 years ago tomorrow?
Lakeland, Florida.
Lakeland, Florida. Okay, not a bad
Of course, that
drive.
could be a mistake too, because some of this comes from, we get in ticket stubs. Yeah, it's like we originally took from the tour itineraries, everywhere they were supposed to be on every day. And then we would get corrections as they canceled dates or move things around. So you can never be sure that the date is exactly what it was until somebody comes to you with a ripped ticket. And
so in
memory.
'82, they were touring the Diver Down, or what album were they touring in '82?
Yeah, they're about to go to Venezuela.
They didn't go out of town, out of the U.S. very often, did they?
They spent all of December, the rest of December in Florida, and then they went in January to Venezuela.
Okay, so they spent Christmas in Florida. How fun would it have been to hang out with Dave and the Van Halen guys in Florida, Christmas of 1982, in Miami Beach? That would have been crazy.
Wow.
Right in the
I'm
pocket.
sure it was crazy.
Wow.
And then, they brought out, as soon as they came back from their break, they brought out Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers again into the set list.
Okay, in
Yeah?
Venezuela. Okay, now that lost video that they just put out that was on an Italian radio show, and we just found that like 3-4 months ago, wasn't it, or 6 months ago now? What was the date?
I think I know what
Is that part of
Which
your
one?
encyclopedia, or did that get lost?
That is one of the deepest mysteries, and there's so much lore behind that. We've been asking everyone in and around the band for 20 years, maybe 25 years, the story behind that. And up till like whatever it was, 6 months ago or so,
Italian
or a year
TV
ago.
show where Roth was humping a dinosaur and all that. You remember the
Oh,
video?
yeah.
It was one from
Yes.
6 months ago. It finally came out to the world.
Mm-hmm. It was on the Fair Warning tour.
And what was for So This Is Love, or what was the song again? It was for
We don't really
Yes.
know, because we have behind the scenes photos of that started the whole mystery, because we thought, they filmed real videos for the Fair Warning album. Where are they? Because all we had were it's not backstage, it's out in the open, but it's like behind the scenes of pictures, black and white, of what they were doing. And the thing is, what those black and white pictures show is not what those videos show. So there's more recorded. It just happened to be lucky that those were, being digitized by that Italian TV show at, 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever it was, and it solved the mystery. Up to then, we had actual members of the band say that didn't happen, never happened.
Yeah, so back in the old Roth days, do you and I'm just making up questions here, but do you think they had good management in those days, or were they just barely keeping those guys out? They didn't have good management because we didn't see good videos from them. The album seemed like they were rushed, even though it was kick-ass stuff.
I can say confidently, no. I mean, you can just read Noel Monk's book. I'm talking specifically about him, not necessarily back at Warner Brothers or anything like that. If you read his book, it's kind of a fever dream of things that just didn't happen. I just can't believe that. And plus, we have receipts and invoices of things that happened back at Warner Brothers with Noel Monk, and we can kind of see what was going on behind the scenes. So I don't believe they had good management.
And then when Sammy Hagar came into the band, everything changed as far as management and their production of their videos. And and the time they took in the studio to make things perfect. It was
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like I'm getting, maybe 5% of the story, and then I look around for things that might disprove it. So I've always believed that, because that's always what they've said in interviews. But looking at the evidence, I mean, they didn't do any videos for 5150 at the perfect time when they should have. 86. I mean, come on. And certainly they were making more money because they got a better contract.
Were they boycotting MTV at that time? Because it wasn't just them. There was other bands, I remember, that weren't making videos at that time. Because there was an article, I think, in Rolling Stone at that time that talked about that. Like
their
Journey.
Official stance.
I don't think Journey did anything that year either.
Yeah, their official stance is what they wanted people's first experience to be live. They didn't want them to see them on a video. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they said.
Or they wanted everybody to buy their live home video, which I did, which I love.
That makes a lot of sense. And you know what? That 5150 album and OU812 is really produced for tiny speakers, like for TVs, for radio. It's really, it was kind of designed for that. It wasn't designed anymore for the vinyl loving, big stereo crowd. So I had to think that they had in mind that they were going to do that kind of stuff, video. Who knows what shape though.
Did you ever have a big stereo kind of thing in your living room? Because I remember at my age, back in the 80s, you had to have a big stereo in your living room. Yeah,
I did, but that's not where the money was, in us nerds. No, the money is, it's in being within that pop crowd, which they were. They were about to do stadiums in '85. And that's the thing, you hear Noel Monk lament the most in his book, is that they were about to do stadiums and you guys went and broke up. Like, are you crazy? Like, you're never going to get that back. So that was his concern. I think he's right too.
Wow. So which did you like better, CJ, Roth or Hagar? I just have to ask that.
Well, I only listen for I'm a guitar player, so I only listen for Eddie, really, and I have.
There you go.
I have the Anthony Kiedis filter in my head that just blocks out the singer, so I can hear the music, and really enjoy the musicians. And so it doesn't matter to me if Eddie's on his game. I don't care who's singing.
Yeah, we need some applause for that. It's always been about Edward. Always. I mean, everything Van Halen ever did, because it's all his music. I love it all.
And with Alex, you got to say with Alex,
yes.
Because when you hear Eddie off on his own, he kind of sounds, I don't know, he's not the same. He needs his brother there.
Oh, dude, I love the Wildlife, man. I love that stuff. I love it.
You know how you were talking about the big stereo thing? Car stereo was getting so much better in the late 80s. Do you think some of these engineers and guys that are mixing and producers and stuff, did they start mixing these songs to sound better on your car stereo opposed to the big stereo you have in your living room?
I think that all started happening in the 90s. I think for the 80s, where the money was MTV all the way. And, if you're producing for that, you cut out the bass and you try to fill that bass pocket with something else. And it's usually synth, some kind of electric drum, something like that, but not bass. That's why, Injustice for All, that whole, late 80s sound.
I can see that. Also, I mean, that was really, OU812 and 5150, I guess they're pop albums. And you can compare those productions to a lot of the pop music at the time, like some of the like more like dance stuff that was happening. They're equalized, very, very similar.
I don't think that was a mistake. I think they're all shooting for the same crowd. Definitely.
Right. Yeah.
So I was able to actually attend the US Festival 1983. So I went to that show,
Wow.
and there's that big, giant, long story about Dave was down in the Amazon, and they were trying to get a hold of him. And back then, you didn't have cell phones or pagers or anything like that. And they finally were able to get a hold of him, and he made it just in time for the show. But do you have more of an accurate story about Dave in the Amazon?
I only have what's in his book about that. I have none of his, partners in crime from that group that I know of have talked about it. So I have no idea, but I know he likes a good story. So even if it was close, he would have made it look like it was a rush.
Right. He could have been on the beach in Rio de Janeiro and said he was in the middle of the Amazon.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of stories that Dave made up to kind of pump up the entertainment value of it all. And it's hard sifting through which is right and wrong, especially for a book. Yeah.
Man, Dane, I can't believe you were at that show, dude.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's.
I'm an old school Van Halen fan. I really understand.
I can tell, dude.
Yeah.
You actually know
Yeah.
what you're. This is awesome.
He legitimately forgot the words at that
I
one.
lived it. They came to Phoenix, Arizona every summer. And 1984, they sold two nights out at the Coliseum in Phoenix. And we chased them down. I went to one of those shows, but we chased the limos after the show to the Hyatt Regency in downtown Phoenix. And when we got there, I was with a girl that was very shy about it. I'm like, come on, Van Halen, they're right over there, come on. And she was like, oh, I don't know. But when we first got there and we walked to the front door, Dave was already in through the 2 or 4 front doors of the place, surrounded by a mob of people. And we're like, whoa, there goes Dave. But then another limo pulled up, and it was Michael Anthony. He had a bottle of Jack Daniels in his left hand, and he was shaking hands with his right hand. And there I was standing there, 16 years old. And he shook my hand. So I was like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, outside
That's
the Hyatt
awesome.
Regency.
That's
That was a
awesome.
fun night. Yeah.
I
It
never
was
heard
just-
that story.
It was such a party when they came to town. You just kept, you'd wait all summer for that show.
The Toastmaster General? Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. Dane, I never heard that, dude.
I didn't tell you that.
No. I thought you
think
just
I've
bought the
mentioned
shirt
it
at
in
Target.
past live streams, I mentioned it, but between some of the other guys that we had on the channel, it got kind of lost, right?
Literally, yes.
It got lost in the mix.
Let me look up that night.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, us 83,
This is amazing.
middle of the summer. I rode in the bed of my younger brother's Toyota pickup truck. He had a little camper shell on it, and I threw some blankets and a pillow and a cooler, and I actually rode all the way from Phoenix to where was the concert? San
Bernardino.
San Bernardino. Rode in the back of a pickup truck. And then after the show, I jumped back into the back of the pickup truck and fell asleep while my brother and one other friend of ours, they were driving, trying to get out of the parking lot. And they said it took them 2 or 3 hours to get out of the parking lot. I was asleep in the back of the truck. So I didn't mind too bad.
Yeah, I got it May 17th, May 19th, 1984. And the opener was the Velcros. And
Oh, wow.
apparently no bootlegs, not at least at the time of the printing.
The Velcros? Wow.
The Velcros, they had a single at the time that Edward really loved.
Unfortunately, in those days, the opening bands would be everybody would throw everything they had physically at the opening band. And it was kind of sad. They didn't get a chance. The opening bands never got a chance. And I was even at a Heart concert, and Robert Palmer was the opening act. And he didn't have the Addicted to Love song out or any. He still had Doctor Doctor, Give Me the News was out. But he didn't even get a chance to play it. Everybody just threw much stuff, and he was, fuck you guys. He walked off after it all.
No.
Yeah, but to open up for Van Halen in the early 80s, that's not a good gig to have. It was not a good gig.
Yes, I guess yes and no. The Velcros were nothing like Van Halen.
There was no on-time stage for them opening acts. They just got hit by everything and they ran off. If they had 5 or 10 minutes out there, they were lucky.
Wow.
Yeah, they took over for, let's see, Autograph and Loudness was the other openers on that tour.
Cool.
Rock and roll Christian nights. I love Loudness. And Autograph too.
I saw that they're going through some legal stuff. Autograph. The guitar players, like the band is like, I don't know. There's something going. We're friends on Facebook, and I just happened to see something's going on between the band currently. Wow. So no. Here's a good question, CJ. So you're saying there's currently no bootlegs available from those shows, but isn't it amazing all this stuff that's come out in the past couple years, like either live stuff or you're gonna have to update that book.
Well, yeah, I estimate about 40,000 updates to make just from my text files.
Oh my god!
But and that's just like, I think it was 2003 really when the vaults started opening up, and it's just too much to keep up with after 2003. I kind of gave up.
Because the internet had so much new stuff coming through because of the internet that it kind of...
Oh, because anybody can film,
like
with their phone. And if that, is that considered a bootleg? If they upload a whole show to YouTube?
It was also Dave TV. It was, Dave was leaking old songs. And, books were starting to come out by people close to the band. Everything was starting to happen all at once. And it just snowballed. And pretty soon it was just like, it was too much. I was like, this is going to take me decades. So I didn't bother.
But as a fan, you're probably freaking out like, oh, this is like, to write the Van Halen Encyclopedia, you must be a pretty big fan.
Well, believe me, I got databases. I got like backlinks, interconnected things. Like I know, like personally, I have all this stuff. It's just how to get it out into the world. It's tough. For a long time, I couldn't do it as a website legally because everybody was getting sued for everything. And then by the time I could, it was kind of, it's really hard to set that kind of thing up. And all of the successful band websites that I went to for advice, they all said the same thing. They're like, don't do it. It's not there yet. It's a full-time job, and you're going to get all these issues from the band. So I never did. But now I think maybe through the newsletter process, I can update it in real time and eventually have a new book.
So you mean like Substack?
Could be anything.
Using a blog and
just doing it in real time instead of saving everything up at once and putting it out as a book.
Or Twitter.
Especially,
doing tweet updates.
I did that for a while. I stopped. I did that up until the day Eddie died, and it just kind of took the wind out of my sails. And wasn't getting. Twitter is really ephemeral. Like it's in the name really. But email is universal still. So. I think that's, if I want something lasting that's going to stick across all platforms, you got to start with email, and then maybe you'll find something that you like better.
Have any of the guys from the band, Sammy or anybody, have you been in contact with any of them about all the work you're doing with this whole encyclopedia?
Kind of. Back in the day, it was such a litigious band. They couldn't acknowledge anything. And I would just hear from intermediaries like, don't do this, don't say that in the book. And it was kind of, it came from the band's camp, but it wasn't the band. And then I love telling the story. I was working on the second edition, which took 2 years. So it's 4 years total for the second edition. And during that process, I got a call in the middle of the night. It must have been like 2 a.m. or something. And this just drunk guy on the other end of the line, he goes, I want more Sobolewski in that book. And
that was Michael Anthony.
It was his brother. It turned out to be his brother. Like I got confirmation from someone else who said, oh yeah, that's his brother.
His brother called me on my birthday one time on Facebook. Like all of a sudden it rings and I open it up and it's the guy looking at me. He's like, Johnny, I just want to say happy birthday. And it was Mike's brother. It's true. It's a true story. It was awesome.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think it's great that, I'm sure like it's been passed around and they know about it, but they never could like acknowledge it because there's a lot of stuff in the book that they probably, they want to keep secret maybe.
Man.
It kind of demystifies them a little bit.
So how much Van Halen knowledge do you have in your head? I mean, if you're writing the encyclopedia,
does it all stick? Does it all stick in your head?
Are you thinking Van Halen 24/7? Like, are you always thinking Van Halen stuff? And
I have another book that did really well recently, and I just get hyper focused on certain topics. But Van Halen's one of them. I mean, why not? It brings everybody joy.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, you are thinking Van Halen 24/7. You have, I mean, to write that book, you have to be, and that's dude, that's amazing. I think Van Halen 24/7, and I could never write a book. I could never.
Sure, you could. You take it one page at a time. I'm sure you could.
I can't read.
I wish I could get some of the stuff out of my head, like Van Halen 3 stuff, but that's stuck in there with everything else.
I've been listening to Van Halen 3 lately.
Was there any highlights to Van Halen 3? Anything positive that came out of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's great stuff in there. It's diamonds in the rough. It just needed a producer to pull it out. I think the ending of Fire in the Hole is probably the greatest thing on the album. It should have been a song on its own.
Best song on the album though, Fire in the Hole?
No, the best song on the album is the last 10 seconds of Fire in the Hole, which has the best riff on the album and just should have been expanded into its own song.
Oh, the blues riff. You mean the blues riff with like the guy going, the guy talking and stuff? Yeah. Gary's in the background. He's on like a CD. He's like talking into something like this, and he's like, hey, and then it's like a blues. It's blues is what it is. Dun 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 dun. And then it goes up. We heard them play that before, though. I think we've heard them jam that like live at some point, or we've heard Eddie play that. I think if they're a really good like producer, the kind of producer who picks that stuff apart, like they've had in the past and they had after, that would have been pulled out. Someone would have said, "That's brilliant. You need to expand on that. Forget some of this other stuff."
Some guys are talking in the chat about best Van Halen song ever. What do you got, CJ?
Oh my God. Well, Sammy era, because I was just on the Sammy podcast. I was thinking Crossing Over. Easily the best. Amsterdam, another good one from that era.
You were just on a Sammy podcast?
Oh yeah. There's the Bogus Otis Sammy podcast. I was just on that.
Link to that in the description for the guys. I'm sure that a lot of these guys watching today want to see you on the Sammy podcast.
Yeah, I mean it's often ignored era, for sure. Yeah, but you can take anything from the Dave era. I mean, But Drop Dead Legs, I think if you're a guitar player, when you heard that, you were just like, oh, this is peak Eddie.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
1984. I mean,
well, yeah. If hold on a second, maybe I can get this.
oh, what's he got?
Let's see.
Oh my goodness.
That was a great commercial
look at
success right there, that album.
Yep.
Oh.
Who's the artist?
I got number 51 right there.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wonder who has
Margot.
number 50.
Yeah.
You should have bought two.
Clearly. Yeah, I should have.
But then you might have 51 and 52 instead of 51 and 50.
I didn't know I was going to get 51, or else I would have. I would have asked her to throw in a 50 in there.
Wow, that's amazing. Is that your favorite record ever?
Yeah.
84?
Pure nostalgia. It was the first time I was 9 years old. All the videos were all over TV. It was a huge part.
Mm-hmm.
People forget how big a part of the culture it was in 84, but it was everywhere. And of course, I'm in Chicago. Jump was the Cubs theme song. They played it before every game.
Wow.
And they went to the playoffs that year. And
I never knew that.
everything was Van Halen everywhere. And it's a great album too.
Wow.
You know, and I had no idea they had so much trouble recording it until Ted's book with Greg Renoff.
Wow.
What troubles were they having recording that?
Oh, it was. If you read that book,
have anything to do with it?
No. Well, I guess I mean that's the clear thing, but really it was just an obsession with the perfection on the album, where they were hiding the masters from Ted. The engineer Don was conspiring with Eddie, like he'd run out of 5150 with the masters while Don was distracting Ted, or it was they missed their deadline, and finally I think in the book it said something like Warner Brothers was getting ready to start pressing the album using their copy of the album instead of the actual masters.
Scratch tracks from it or
something. And
uh-huh.
It was at that point with the masters and gave it to them. But it was rough. Like they spent a lot of time and a lot of money, missed a lot of deadlines.
But the release date of January 1st, 1984, and to have your album called 1984, that was perfect timing. They pulled that off. Yeah,
I think they did. Now I have to look back in the book because I know in the first book I got dinged by somebody on that. Like there's somebody.
Was his name John B.L.?
Didn't MTV play Jump on 2 minutes after midnight? January
is that
1st,
true?
1984.
I don't know about that. I was too young for that. I know that they did that in 1995 for Balance.
They played "Don't Tell Me" right at midnight. The video
right
premiered on MTV. I was there. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Eddie with short hair. I was just like,
yep. Oh. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really great.
So for viewers that have just came in, Johnny,
yes.
CJ,
I'm getting text. People are texting me. They're like, "Who is this?" You guys, this is CJ Chilvers, and he wrote the Van Halen Encyclopedia. He's working now on the third edition.
That's right. Here you go.
The book.
Second edition, right there. Says it was officially released by Warner Brothers on January 9th.
Okay.
So I hope that's right.
Maybe they previewed something, or I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't enter the U.S. charts until the 28th.
Interesting. Holly Lewis is asking, where can we get a copy of the Van Halen Encyclopedia?
You can get it on Amazon, but I wouldn't. I mean, just email me, or maybe I'll put it up on Substack for free. in all the formats. But on Kindle, it's 99 cents.
Wow. I'm going to have to grab that.
The last edition is so old at this point. I don't want to rip people off. You got to understand that, the information dump that happened after this book was released, was monumental.
Uh-huh. Going back 20 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've kept track of everything.
Wow, that's amazing.
So what
That's
you saw
amazing.
in that growth article is going to happen for every entry.
Oh, wow. Wow, man. I mean, that's what I saw. I saw on Twitter. By the way, you guys, give me a follow on Twitter. Follow me and CJ on Twitter. Actually, I've got my card already made. I'm going to have to make your card. Where is it? There's my card right there. Follow us on Twitter. Actually, I'm retweeting CJ's tweets right now. So if you follow me at Johnny Beane on Twitter, you can find CJ's Twitter as well. CJ Chilvers at CJ Chilvers on Twitter.
Yeah, so tell me your favorite song, and I'll tell you some tidbits. Maybe you don't know.
Favorite. Can I give you a Roth and a Sammy?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Roth. I mean, it changes all the time, but let me just say, like a Roth song, I'm gonna say, oh crap, Zimms. Do you have a favorite Roth song?
Well, because I listened to Van Halen 2 on Sunday.
There you go.
Dead or Alive has always been such a fun song for me. And what's interesting about it is the first verse, the third verse repeats the first verse. So how often did Van Halen actually just repeat the first verse as the third verse? I don't recall them doing that on any song. But Dead or Alive, he goes back into broken down and dirty, dressed in rags, and he repeated the first verse. And I'm thinking,
all right, here we go.
other songs, did they repeat the first verse? I mean, maybe you really got me, or stuff that they wrote. They usually never did that. Roth would come up with more lyric content. And I'm sure Sammy, I don't know about Sammy stuff, but
they recorded it for Van Halen 1, but the lyrics were incomplete at that time. So a lot of the lyrics were like scattered and mumbled. So that may be part of it.
Because there's that concert where they play it, and it's their last show at Pasadena Civic Center or whatever. And he's saying, but
the greatest bootleg ever, man.
Yeah, he would say, the judge looked at me, said, "You out of luck." Or he would say, the jury looked at me. And the lyrics from that concert to when we finally heard Van Halen 2, they were different.
Yeah, and
So,
he does change up the lyrics like over time for a lot of songs.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to a bootleg the other day, Magic Mountain 77. And it sounds, from the sound of it, it sounded like that was their very first time playing Ain't Talking About Love.
It was probably pretty close because they just wrote that for the album, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Because it had, some of the lyrics were slightly different, and the intro that Eddie played on the A minor was a little different too.
Yeah, I remember him talking about how he was embarrassed by that song at first because it was so simple.
Mm-hmm. They wrote it. That was like their punk song, because punk music was
most of the time
was happening.
Ain't Talking About Love is very simple. Ain't Talking About Love gave the average guitar player a song that they could play.
That was one of the first riffs I ever learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also it shows you how complex like Eddie's little flourishes were. Like, it's simple, but can you repeat the way he hits those strings? Well, not really. He's got personality to it.
And the lead had a they overdubbed a sitar.
A sitar.
With a guitar
Yeah.
solo.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
CJ,
there's
I
a
got
great
one
new
question
there's
for
a great
you.
new video on YouTube showing how there's like I think 3 or 4 different ways you can play the solo in Ain't Talking About Love, because there's it trails off and comes back into different forms.
Yeah, the endings are different. What he did on the sitar is different than what he did on his 6-string.
And the solo's different too.
Yeah.
In the song, the Magic Mountain version of Ain't Talking About Love, they actually play you do the first solo, and then they do the ending, and then they come back in with the second solo. It's awesome. I heard it the other day. I couldn't believe it. It was weird.
So let me ask you a question now. So there's these different awards that you can win as a band. You've got the MTV Awards. You've got, I guess, Grammys. Or what awards has the Van Halen brothers been able to compile throughout their career? Do they have a whole stack of them, or is it just a few?
Yeah, it's for the Grammys. They won all kinds of like those backstage awards that aren't shown during the show.
Okay.
And we really didn't know that. I think when Eddie died is the first time I heard of a lot of them. They just weren't publicized. But then I believe they won for Seventh Seal of all songs. And
was that for the Twister movie or something?
No, I think it was
Balance.
Best Rock Song.
Oh.
It was the weirdest thing because I couldn't imagine who nominated Seventh Seal.
That was a Grammy.
Look at this.
Yeah.
The official Rob Blackmore actually has a question about the Seventh Seal. What do you think of the chanting monks at the beginning of Seventh Seal?
The Gyoto monks Tibetan Tantric Choir. Let's see. That's where that track was taken from. Is from that album that they made. The funniest thing was they took them on tour, and at one of the Balance shows, and
I know the
scared
answer.
them. It scared them right off stage.
They played in Minneapolis. I think that was the only show because I saw them on Balance 3 times and I didn't see them. The monks on stage.
I'm trying to
That's
get
right.
the exact date. Okay, it didn't win. It
Minneapolis.
didn't win the Grammy. It was only nominated for Best Hard Rock Performance, and it was nominated in 1996.
Yeah, I never heard that.
Were there any MTV video? Did Panama or Hot for Teacher? Did we get an MTV video award out of it?
I'm not sure because those would have been the very first years of the awards. So I wouldn't know.
That would have been
be
the first
hard.
award. The first
Yeah.
MTV Video Music Awards, 84, I think, was the first ever.
I remember video of them being there. I don't remember who won or anything. It'd be tough competition when you got like Madonna,
1984
Prince,
stuff.
Cyndi Lauper, like
Yeah. Michael Jackson.
yeah.
Thriller was out that year, you know.
Yeah, it was still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
Which they held a grudge, against Eddie for, because he helped Thriller become number one and block out 1984 from becoming number one.
And Roth, was it Roth that was mostly upset with Eddie for doing Beat It, or who exactly was upset the most out of Eddie going down there and playing with Michael Jackson just for free?
Yeah, and as far as I can tell, just from everybody's account, like I'm taking from everybody and trying to like triangulate what the truth might be from everybody. But it seems like they had some kind of like gentleman's agreement. Like, okay, let's not go off and do other people's albums and stuff. Let's just keep it all in house. And so that's kind of what Eddie was breaking right. But he never thought that anyone would find out.
Mm-hmm. And I think Edward had said everybody was out of town. No one was around to ask. and he just went and did it because he thought
Was
nobody would ever
is
know.
it Alex that would worry about that, or is Dave the one that's really more worried about that?
It's hard to say. Alex really never spoke that much about that kind of thing. He still does.
I think Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah, I could see that. Because Eddie was doing a lot of other people's stuff. Up to that point.
Oh,
Brian,
I got a question. I got a question for you, man. Okay, so hey, so yeah, 83. I just thought of something that I don't know if this is even in your book. Maybe it is. 83. You saw a lot of stuff, and that brings up the new Starfleet. There's some brand new Starfleet stuff that's going to be coming out. That Dr. Brian May, Save the Badgers, that he's putting out a brand new version of Starfleet with like the extra takes or like longer tracks or like talking or whatever. It's going to be awesome to hear. But anyway, 83, you had a lot of stuff. You had Starfleet, you had Michael Jackson. I mean, I guess technically that's 82, I guess, but during that era. What about that's in 83, there was a record that came out, Vanilla Fudge, Tim Bogart. Do you know anything about that?
For that, I'd have to do a search. I don't know about. I know he was on Nicolette Larson. Her stuff as early as 80.
Nicolette sang on Women and Children First in
yeah.
She did the background to Could This Be Magic. Edward played the guitar on her album, I think in 70. It was 77 or 78. He did the lead guitar for a song called Can't Get Away From You or something.
Yeah.
But they said lead guitar and it was a question mark. It didn't actually say Eddie's name, but you know it's him because I guess Ted Templeman, I think, was dating Nicolette. And Ted's actually from here in Santa Cruz. This is actually where he's from. But anyway, in 83, Tim Bogart, from the bass player from Vanilla Fudge, puts out a record. I want to say it's called something Brew, Stranger's Brew or something. And anyway, there's a song on that. There's a song on that album, and it has a guitar solo, and you're like, that's Eddie. But it doesn't say Eddie's name. It has like a made up name. Did you ever hear that? Do you know anything about that?
I don't. What's hold on, let me look it up real quick.
John Bell.
Okay. Yeah, that's one I might have to go to the archives for.
Are those downstairs?
Yeah.
It's got a filing cabinet. Like the filing cabinets.
You're gonna have to take us downstairs at some point, man. That's amazing.
No,
the song is called "Don't Leave Me This Way."
Okay.
The song is called "Don't Leave Me This Way." And I'm going to send you this link. I mean, we can't play it on here.
That one I'll take away.
But I'm going to send you this link, and you can listen to this later, and you can get back to me.
I do have archives downstairs. They're like all the printed stuff from the old days, but then there's the digital archives are much bigger.
His basement looks like when you go into like Google and there's just all these giant computers all the way down. Rows of them.
Yeah. There's some of that. I mean, I'm going to digitize it all. That's part of this. What I'm doing is I want to have something that other people can search.
Oh my gosh! And you're not on Facebook, you're saying? Well, yeah, you are. I have you on Facebook.
I am. I just haven't been there in a long time.
You got to join my group, man. My Van Halen group.
I will.
You got it. I'm going to get you in there, man.
Yeah.
Because this is incredible.
Holly Lewis in the chat just again asked, what made you start doing this book, CJ?
It's a Van Halen mailing list. It was the first kind of big group of fans online back in 95, 96. And we just started doing projects like this. And and then Valerie Bertinelli joined the group and was guiding us through some of the stuff. Yeah, it was fun.
During the recording of like Van Halen 3, right? She was giving you guys
Before then, so
before that. Yeah.
like well, the first project, like she gave me my first project on the list. She wanted me to be the photographer of the list and go shoot pictures of everybody on the list so she can put faces with the names. It wasn't like social media today. So we
That's
had little
amazing.
conventions. We had a 96 convention in Chicago. We had 97 in Las Vegas. And there were a few more, but so that was my first project before the book. And then I took on the book. And and she was there. One of my like fondest memories of that time was in 96. She posted to the list. She's like, something's going on here today, guys. She's like, I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you what it is, but it's groundbreaking. It's historical. You know, you're going to love it. All that. And she's like, and she's really psyching us up. And at that time, I think Sammy's still in the band, as far as anybody knew. But that was the day that Roth had come back to 5150 for the first time.
Oh.
Yeah, and she's like psyching us up for this. So that's a pretty fond memory. And I think
Wow.
she stayed with the list until she like, not her, but Brad Starks and the rest got us all backstage passes for the Van Halen 3 tour.
I know
and
Brad.
Then,
I love Brad. Brad isn't. We hang out. I went to his birthday one year. He's amazing.
he's
Every
the
time.
co-author.
Oh, dude! Every time I'm at the NAMM show, Brad finds me, and we hang out.
I got to make sure I say that. I want to make sure everybody knows. Like every time I'm on a podcast, like Brad Starks is the co-author of this book. Couldn't put his name on it because he became employed by the band during the making of the book, and so had to leave.
So in '90, when that Greatest Hits album came out, where they compiled the old stuff and the new stuff, and Roth rejoined the band for 2 songs, Sammy was still in the band. How did this whole thing go down? Like, sum it up like in just a, quickly.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can sum it up. I got, I've got all the timeline, like all laid out. And every time I have the timeline laid out, somebody sticks up their hand and said, oh yeah, I was at 5150 on this day singing or something. and it messes up the timeline. And yeah, I don't think anybody's story is straight on that. I just think, the breakup happened like it happened, and it was kind of like what happened with Roth. It wasn't clear. It was like, okay, you want to be a solo artist, go be a solo artist. And that was it. That was the breakup. So
they didn't have like lawyers sitting down where they're ripping up contracts and signing.
No. So yeah, it was all unclear. And I think probably at that point, or maybe even before that point, Eddie was already having people over or entertaining the idea.
Was that the Mitch Malloy period where Mitch went over there and rehearsed with them once or twice or for a week or something? Okay.
Yeah, he did a demo with them, and he was told he was in the band. He was one of a couple people told they were in the band at that time.
And then they had
CJ,
and they did those 2 songs and Me Wise Magic.
Yeah.
And then you can't get that stuff from here.
Yeah,
no more.
Can't get this no more. Yeah.
Let me just tell CJ this. CJ, back in 1998, I was working with this songwriter named Desmond Child. He's the guy who did Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, all their big hits is all Desmond Child. Kiss, all that stuff. Ricky Martin. I used to let Ricky Martin into the house to work on Livin' La Vida Loca. Anyway, when I'd be recording, I was in a band that Desmond was producing, and I used to live in his house. And anyway, when I'd be recording tracks, Desmond would psych me up by telling me stories about working with Eddie. Because Desmond was writing with Eddie I guess it was right before before Glenn Ballard came in there and did the stuff for the best of and everything. But Desmond, he told me he's the one that called Mitch. He was at the studio with Eddie, and he was the one that told Eddie about Mitch Malloy, because they were watching one of Mitch's videos, on, I guess, like an MTV video or whatever. And as Desmond was leaving 5150, he called Mitch and told him about Van Halen. And so he told me he was the one that got them hooked up.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. That's another new piece. Like, that's going to have to be added to that timeline because it's so confusing. And I'm sure to Eddie, it was just nonchalant. I'm sure Eddie was just like, yeah, you're in the band, come on, or something like that. And maybe, it wasn't legally binding or whatever, but to somebody, outside the band to hear that, that's monumental. I'm sure it meant everything.
And when you're like one of the biggest bands in the world, and you start to, and you're in the music business, and you're somehow in their circle, and you hear something like the lead singer is leaving the band, you instantly your mind starts again. Hey, who can I know? Who can I get into this band? How can I help? What can I do? And that's where Desmond calls Mitch and says, "Hey, guess what?
Yeah, and that's ultimately how Gary got.
Sammy's leaving the band. Yeah. Let me set something up. Or every lead singer in every band on Warner Brothers Records with that same manager is like, oh my God, let me get over there and jam with them guys.
Yeah, and that's why Gary, got the job really, and I was really excited when I heard it because Extreme had just come off, an incredible album,
I remember hearing that one.
Yeah. Imagine that
I'll be right back, by the way.
The remaining three guys in the band are having little conversations with themselves. It's like, well, what should we do? Sammy's out of the band, and we could get Billy Sheehan in the band. And Michael's like, what the fuck are you saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know the timeline of Michael in all this. I'd love to know that. I can't wait for his book. His book would be the best book.
He's going to go down in history as the greatest background singer of any heavy metal band that there is. The way that his harmonies and his high notes that he sang and in perfect pitch, nobody could pull that stuff off except for Michael Anthony.
His is the story I want to tell more than anybody else's, probably. Yeah, and he's a Chicago guy, so maybe I'll see him one day.
I see him at the NAMM show. He's a nice guy. He's always out at the NAMM show. And there was a couple good questions here about where'd it go? Eddie and Alex when they were with Gene Simmons doing some of those early demos. Christine 16 and stuff. What do you know? What can you tell us about some of those days back then and what Gene was trying to do with those guys?
Yeah, that's another one where there's all kinds of stories flying back and forth, but it's pretty easy to tell what happened. What was so surprising about it was Van Halen didn't have an album out yet when all this was going on with Gene Simmons. They didn't have prospects for an album or being signed or anything. And Eddie is in his bedroom with his tech, and his tech didn't know who he was talking to, just that he was telling him, no, I don't want to be in your band. I've got my own band. And he hung up and said, this guy won't stop calling me. And it was Gene Simmons. And, you think about the guts that must have taken in 1976, 77 to just like slam the phone down on the biggest rock star, one of the biggest rock stars in the world, and say, no, I don't want to be in your band. I can't imagine that. But if you listen to that demo and then you listen to Van Halen 1, you see the real differences that a producer can make. And it's really everything. I mean, if they would have had Gene Simmons as the producer of Van Halen 1, it wouldn't have made a blip because Eruption wouldn't have come out.
It would have sounded like a Kiss album. It would have sounded like an early Kiss album. Dry guitars, no brown sound.
They'd be
Yeah.
wearing makeup eventually.
Yeah.
They'd be replacing Kiss.
Yeah, and no eruption. So I don't know if they would have gotten anywhere.
Man.
Yeah,
That's
because
what we were talking about on the Sammy podcast about this, because the differences in producers is so important. If you look at the Balance album, that's Wolfgang's favorite Sammy album, and it's mine too, for the same reason, is that it's the only time they've ever been cleanly produced, where you can hear every instrument, every note, everything everyone's doing at any given time. It's the only time that's ever happened. So it's interesting just for that
amazing.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing album. Let's see. Man, we're getting tagged everywhere, man. We're getting tagged on Facebook.
Gene
We're
calls
getting
collect.
tweets.
Will you accept a collect call from Gene Simmons? No.
Yeah, and man, CJ, since you wrote your book, we got to hear those tracks too. The Gene Simmons ones with Edward and Alex on them.
Yeah, I think he originally released them.
Was that an effort for Gene to just have those guys help him write songs, or was Christine 16 already out on whatever album at the time? Or
I don't know the timeline for it. I just know that Gene really wanted them, and really wanted Eddie in the band, and then it came out why Van Halen was turned down
as an Ace Frehley replacement.
Yeah, or if failing that, then he would produce Van Halen, and take him under his wing. But then it came out, Greg Renoff in his book Van Halen Rising, it came out that really what happened wasn't that the demo was bad and that they rejected the band. It's just that they didn't want Gene doing things outside of Kiss, so they turned down Van Halen.
Oh, I'm remembering all this stuff now, Dan. CJ, when I was in Miami working with Desmond, we actually, the band I was in, we actually showcased for Bill Aucoin, who is the guy that passed on Van Halen. And I remember we were playing, and he was sitting there, and I was the whole time playing. I'm like, this is so weird, because I knew the stories of that stuff. And he was telling us, oh, you got too many beer bottles. No, you got too many water bottles on stage. You need more beer bottles on stage, is what he was telling us and stuff. And
you got to be authentic.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to dive behind those amplifiers when the knife fight breaks out. That was another one of the stories in that book.
Yeah, somebody got stabbed. Yeah,
Greg's the best. Read Greg Renoff stuff. Yeah, everybody. He's the one to go to. He's a legit historian. The rest of us are just kind of fans trying to put pieces together, but he's a real historian.
I've met Greg. I met him at NAMM years ago. We hung out a little bit.
So the first 6 albums were at Sound City Studios, right on Sunset Boulevard. Recorded there, right? And then they went immediately to Eddie's 5150 studio.
Sunset Sound.
Sunset Sound.
I was going to say that. Yeah. And that's why I think when you hear about the box set that was put together years ago, all that stuff could be pulled from the masters that were there. Everything, past Diver Down was at 5150.
And did they ever record anywhere other than those 2 locations?
Yeah. In the Sammy years, they recorded in different places. Yeah, especially Sammy. He would record his vocals.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And then for
once things became digital.
Yeah.
right?
And the reunion with Dave. Dave did all his stuff, I think, in New York.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah, I don't think they really wanted to like hang out together and disrupt the reunion before it gets
Imagine
started.
that made it easy for them to just send the songs to New
Yeah.
York, have Dave do his part, send them back, have them mixed and all that. Because
Yeah.
there is a version of Me Wise Magic where Dave is doing all these screams in it. Have you seen the video footage of that or heard that?
All I know is that they were all set to start, a real legit official video for that when the whole MTV Awards thing blew up. So we almost got, a video for that. But I don't know anything about the making of it. I know those riffs and everything were kicking around for a while.
So they went to this award show, and it's the first time we've seen Van Halen on stage together, the original four guys, since '84. And this was 1998 or 6 or
So
96, 98. And so the four guys get together and they just go out on the stage and they accept an award or they give away an award for something, and they announce that they're officially back together. And then what part of the conversation was it that made things go so bad? What did Dave say?
Well, if you listen to the brothers, afterwards they gave an interview about it, and they said, we don't really have Dave's side of the story entirely, or I don't think Mike's ever said anything about it, but they thought he was being disrespectful to Beck, who was accepting an award, and he's sitting, he's dancing behind Beck.
Okay, they were coming
that. Doing it, yeah. And then, and they had like lines they were supposed to deliver ahead of the award, and they're trying to deliver their lines, and Dave is just like interrupting like button and like this is the first time we've been together on stage in 20 years. He's going on like this, and they're all like, yeah, they're like, that's enough. Come on, we got to do this. But what really happened was back in the press room after they had presented the award was I guess like they were giving contradictory answers about what was happening with the band. Like Dave would say, yeah, I'm back, and then A would say, no, he's back for a best of. That's it. That's all we know. It's a couple of songs. We don't know yet what else we're doing. Meanwhile, Gary is at 5150 watching this on TV. I think Mitch Malloy was already gone by that point. I'm not sure.
Maybe Gary and Mitch are watching together.
It could have been like hazy, what was, in fact, it was. Now that I remember Mitch Malloy's story, it was like he didn't know it was over until he saw that. So, yeah. The timeline gets a little weird around that. It's a little gray, but it's like that kind of crushed everyone's dreams. But at the same time, I think Gary knew that he was in. It was just weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that fighting back and forth
announcement when that happened, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Dave is back in the band." I mean, you could watch Walter Cronkite on NBC Nightly News, and Walter's talking about it and stuff. That was big.
And the Welcome Back Kotter commercial that MTV played.
Yeah.
And Welcome Back Dave, and yeah, they could have done anything at that point. They could have owned the world at that point. They could have played any arena. They could have asked any amount. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. They could have started doing stadium tours right there.
Yeah,
and just played greatest hits.
They had all the biggest hip hop artists in the front row, like giving them a standing ovation, like screaming, "Yeah, Dave's back." Everybody was on board. Yeah, it's a real missed opportunity.
Yeah, I remember watching that. I remember seeing that, and first of all, I got into Van Halen in '85 because of the movie Back to the Future, because of the cassette tape song, the wildlife stuff, which I love. I love that stuff. But
and
so
on guitar, it wasn't Eddie. It was Luthiker. Steve Luthiker was doing that, right?
no.
Well, he's one of yeah. I always call him the fifth member of the band at any given time because he sings background vocals on most Van Halen albums. Like he's
He
another
sang on
Michael Anthony.
Top of the World. He sang backgrounds.
He's
But no,
on
that
every
was Eddie.
Sammy album. He's on every Sammy album, multiple
Well,
songs.
he's actually on every record there is, truthfully.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
And
It's just
we're
what we can
talking about
prove.
Steve Luthiker was on Van Halen albums.
Vocally,
on-
yes.
Yeah, I
I,
think he's
I never
on.
knew that.
Vocally, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think he's
technically,
on
I
all
think
of
he's on
them.
one.
Playing the
He's on one
guitar
song,
and,
but no,
No.
that wasn't him playing guitar. That was Eddie playing the guitar. TMZ actually got Eddie at an airport and said, "Is that you really playing?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just playing, just making noise." But anyway, so what I was saying though is I got into Van Halen in '85. 5150 came out. For me, my Van Halen is 5150, 0812, Van Hagar. That's where I started. But then I bought the first record, dug back, bought everything. To me, it's all Van Halen. It's all Edward. It's all about Edward. Right.
Sure. And we think about that as compressed time, those Dave era albums. But if you think about it, going back from, if we're going into 2023, that would mean that Van Halen 1 would have come out in 2017 and 1984 would have come out just a month from now. So that's how short it was.
they packed that stuff in a
Oh.
short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quick, but I forget what I was gonna say. I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, I'm
6
sorry. I
albums
get
worth of
the.
stuff in 6 years.
Huh? No, before that, you started talking about Lukather. You started talking about what was it? I forget.
Yeah, I can only like prove from interviews that he was on certain albums, but I know he's on more. And you know, he's a part of the background sound of Van Halen.
I had no idea.
And Ted Templeman, I think, came in on a few songs too early on. It's just they needed a more full sound for the background vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Lukather was always there. He was always at the studio.
He's up in there going, "How does it feel when it's love?"
I'm sure he was on that. Yeah.
But in proper pitch. That is really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah,
You can't
he's
be sure
everywhere.
You can't be sure of what happened at 5150 because that was a pretty tight club there.
Yeah. Man, I wish I could remember what I was gonna say. I'm gonna rewatch this later and then figure out what it was. I was gonna ask a question. I don't know. Something
Yeah,
about
I'm
Van
sorry.
Halen.
We get pretty worked up about Van Halen.
Was Steve Lukather part of any of the writing process in the Hagar years?
Oh,
Because
I have a question.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt this one.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Dane. All right, I don't know if this is in your book, but you know how the 5150 leftover track, you know what I'm going to say, I Want Some Action, how that was supposed to be on 5150, and then Edward played an instrumental version of it on Saturday Night Live, and then Lukather recorded a version of it called Twist the Knife, where I think Edward was on bass, for Luke's album.
And he called it, I think it was Stompin' 8H when he did
The
it on
Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
The Saturday Night Live version. And then that was in 87. And then in 89, Lukather puts out a song called Twist the Knife, which is the same song. It's the same music.
Okay.
Edward, I think, is on bass for that. And then eventually after that, on Van Halen 3, the song Dirty Water Dog is where they finally used the music. Van Halen. And so, Dane, there's a Lukather Van Halen connection right there. How they both put out the same song, basically. Same
I
music.
think there's more than that. I think he was hanging around the studio so much that he's probably more involved than we know. That's another book that's got to come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About
And I
that.
think, okay. No, I was checking on him for another song. I was thinking he was on. He's not.
Oh man, I can almost remember what I was going to ask. It had something to do with something that's in your book, probably. There was a timeline question I had. Oh man, I can't remember. This chat is flying though. You see that? You guys, we're not ignoring you guys. The chat is going crazy tonight. You guys are awesome. By the way, we're giving away some vinyl at some point. Usually at the very end of the show, we spin for a Pretty Woman. Right there. CJ, do you know about this? You ever heard the single version? You ever heard Pretty Woman just on its own?
Probably not on a 45. No.
So this right here, if you were to put this on a turntable and play it, you would hear the actual beginning to the song, which you don't hear on the actual record. Because on the record, Intruder goes right into Pretty Woman. But on the actual recording, on the single, that was actually released before Diver Down. The song was put out by itself. Like you look at the actual other version of this where it has the cover, it makes no mention of Diver Down on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think I have it. Is this one? Oh, here's one right here. Look at this. I found one. So you look at... I was a huge Van Halen collector for a lot of years, CJ. I had everything. But... So
yeah,
you
this
got
is mentioned in Ted's book too.
So you look at this. There's no mention of Diver Down on there. It just talks about a fan club, which we all wished we were in, you know. But anyway, when you hear the song, I guess I can give this one away. Which one do you guys want me to give away? The one with no cover or the one with the cover?
Oh, I'd go picture sleeve all day.
Here, we'll start a poll for that. But hey, what I want to say though, CJ, is you put this on, and you actually hear Alex hit a bass drum kick. It goes doom, and then the song starts. You don't hear that on Diver Down because it just goes. It goes right into it.
Okay.
I bet you it's in that box set.
Man.
Next level
so cool.
Nerd stuff.
This is so awesome.
Yeah.
See, Dane, our show finally turned into the show it's always meant to be. This is the greatest show we've ever done.
CJ,
I have like
you're
2.5, 3 pages
every
just on
Tuesday
that
now.
song.
No way.
Like, yeah, I'm getting reacquainted with all this stuff. It goes on forever with that.
Oh my gosh. Well, to answer your question earlier, my favorite Roth era song is Pretty Woman.
Oh, okay.
That's my favorite.
With Intruder?
With Intruder. Maybe Intruder is my favorite Van Halen song ever.
You got to get it accurate, right? With the
Dude, I have all the somebody uploaded to YouTube about 8 or 9 years ago all the Guitar Hero tracks, all the Van Halen raw tracks, all the guitar, all the vocal, all the bass, all the drums. And as soon as I saw it, I grabbed all of it. So I have literally 10 hours of all this stuff. So, and I've heard...
re-listen to Intruder, because that's the only time you'll hear Dave playing keyboard on a Van Halen album.
I have that keyboard by itself. And you can tell it's not Eddie, because it's off time. It's not correct. It's like, it's missing notes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it kind of undercuts the whole, argument of Dave leaving because of keyboards on 1984.
So CJ, what about movie soundtracks? What were they involved when it came to movie soundtracks?
Well, the famous one is Twister, because that's the one that kind of, everybody says Amsterdam broke up Van Hagar, but it's really the Twister soundtrack. And everything around
was it just the one song for that soundtrack, or was it more than that?
They did 2 songs, Humans Being and Between Us Two. And Between Us Two, they didn't want it for the movie. I guess the lyrics too closely matched scenes in the movie, and that was something the director didn't want. So they threw that one away. And then they brought in Respect the Wind, which is just Eddie and Alex kind of jamming for 10 minutes. And between those two, still hasn't been released.
Nowadays, there's a very popular meme, and it's the scene from Twister where the cow is flying across, like it's in the wind and it's just flying across, and they're still driving, going, "Look at that cow." But they put like Nancy Pelosi's face on the cow or something. Yeah, they got funny memes about that movie, where the cow scene flying across.
Yeah, and maybe if they'd gone on as just Eddie and Alex Van Halen after that, things would have turned out different. But yeah, Eddie's story was that
didn't go good, and Eddie became frustrated with Sammy during that because the song they didn't want.
He was frustrated because he wanted to do the best of album. He wanted to do that soundtrack. He wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff, and Sammy was just. He was just kind of over it, and he had family issues.
Do a brand new album. Let's not do that. Let's just do a brand new album of all. Brand new songs.
Well, that's what. But in his book, he also says that he was just exhausted, and he wanted to live in Hawaii with his, just in his new life, away from he had gotten divorced and everything, and. So he was just like settling into kind of a new, slower life, and Eddie's like, "No, you got to get here to the studio. Let's go. Let's record." And Eddie says, "I just didn't like his work ethic." I think was what he said.
It seems like nowadays Sammy is just working so hard at his age. It almost seems like, wow, he has out of every musician that on earth, Sammy Hagar has the best work ethic out of everybody. I mean, he's a real go-getter.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of things that were frustrating Eddie. I don't think that was the whole story. I think the whole Cabo Wabo thing, where they invested at the beginning, and then the place, nothing was happening. They divested, and then it took off when Sammy got the shares back, and they kind of held that against him. They held a bunch of things against him. It just something had to happen, something little to break everything up, and it didn't take much.
CJ, did you ever make it down to Cabo?
No. No, I have a family. They always have a better place to go.
Matt's tube on you. Didn't Eddie add some music to the Valerie's movie, The Seduction of Gino?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was in the same time frame as the stuff you like. Yeah.
Yep. Dude, back in the mid-'90s, I live in the Bay Area. I'm in Santa Cruz now, and that movie was filmed in San Francisco, where she's driving from the Bay Area to Vegas because she gets into gambling, and it's a crazy movie. Anyway, they used to show that movie all the time back in the mid-'90s, so I used to watch it. I would tape it, and the very beginning of the movie is an Edward keyboard song, and then the middle of the movie, she's racing back. Have you ever seen the movie? Do you know the film?
Yeah, I've seen it about a decade ago.
Okay. The part where she's racing back, that's an Eddie keyboard tune as well, which I think that was something actually that it ended up being like, well, some of the stuff is similar. Like it's very similar to like the song where in The Wildlife, I'm sure you know that movie, where the kid's laying in the street and the girl, he's after what's her name? She's actually a singer now. Anyway, that music went on to be on 84 on the tour of Roth swinging the swords around.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're nerds, Dane.
Yeah. That is the next level nerd shit right there.
Dane's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
No, that is really cool. I had never heard about Valerie's movie. I'm very interested in like watching that now and listening for the keyboard parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very prolific in that time, and you hear all kinds of things showing up later in the albums from that time. We just found out last year.
Valerie's TV series had Eddie playing "Finish What You Started," and that was like
Cafe
the title.
American.
Sydney, the show Sydney featured "Finish What You Started" as the intro, And then Cafe American had Edward playing the street musician in that one scene. Yeah. Right? And hey, really quickly, we have an alert from Holly Lewis here. Our friend Tanner, who had uploaded he had synced the audio to the video. Oh, that's the wrong card. Thank you again, channel members. The unseen footage of Van Halen in '78. Our friend Tanner here, he's the one that had uploaded the audio to that video. It looks like he's getting a copyright strike, and that video is being taken down.
I watched that already. He synced it up so they would show him, and the song would go on for about 10, 12 seconds, and then it would skip to the next part of the song, but he was able to sync the audio up to it. And
he did an amazing job doing that. Yeah. And Tanner, can you screenshot me the message you got from YouTube? Can you text that to me?
Yeah, I'd be really interested
to see what that says.
The copyright right now, because I don't know who owns that right now.
Yeah. Luca Thirds live on Sunset Sound right now. Sunset Sound.
We just lost our audience. Thank you, Holly. Well, technically, that's actually not live. That's pre-recorded.
That's going to be another 10 pages to the book. Whatever he's saying.
I told you he's everywhere, man. Yeah, no, it's all good. Technically, we're supposed to be over by now. But
there's always what they say, and then I there's a lot of stuff they don't say, but I'm sure he's revealing some secrets right now.
Bye, Rock.
Yeah, I'm going to cut out too, guys. But CJ, this was just a ton of fun. I learned a lot of stuff.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, this is so much fun.
Will you come back on?
Oh, all the time. That's all I do is talk about Van Halen when I want to have fun. So, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You've seen us before, right?
Oh yeah.
You've watched us. Yeah. Right on.
And I'm going to be around, like building this book for the next 20 years. So,
Johnny, you're just big in the YouTube world, buddy. In the Van Halen world.
I love this stuff. And Holly, no, it's not actually live. It's a premiere because actually I saw a clip of this like a week ago.
OU812 just listened to the end of Fire in the Hole.
Oh.
Yep. It's the best part of that album, but at the same time, the thing that always bugs me is the audio clipping for the guitars on that track. They're completely clipped. They buzz out, and just reminds me, like, that there probably wasn't a producer.
Yeah, you got Pro Tools. You can fade those in a little bit if you move your mouse around and click on that, and then hit the fade thing, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is like a Van Halen album on Warner Brothers. Like, there shouldn't be, your guitar shouldn't be clipping. Nothing should be clipping.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just say, I love everything that Mike Post did as far as the TV themes. Hunter.
Oh yeah, I'm not putting down
all that stuff.
I don't know if he was there. Is all I'm saying. Like, he was, he was clearly a friend of Eddie, and maybe, he was in and out, but yeah, I see that as Eddie's production.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I love everything Eddie ever did. I love.
All right.
It's amazing. So, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it for now, Dan?
CJ, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Tons of fun talking with you.
Yeah. I wish I'd known about you when I was in Arizona. I would have stopped by.
Yeah,
I bought too much.
Up here in Mesa. We talk Van Halen.
You're right by the Van Halen News Desk.
Yeah.
Van Halen store.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Oh, we got to spin. You guys don't leave. Please don't leave. Okay. Let me see.
I'll let you finish on. Johnny, I'll see you next Tuesday, bud. CJ, really nice meeting you. Bye, guys.
Nice meeting you, too. Thanks.
See you guys.
See you, Dane. Thank you, Dane. Dane is awesome. Dane is awesome. All right, you guys. According to our poll here, yeah, I think we're giving away the picture sleeve of Pretty Woman, which is right here. So we're gonna give this away. So we're gonna spin. Let's see. Where's the giveaway winners? Here we go. So all you guys got to do is say hi in the chat. Just say something in the chat, so we can get you. There we go. All right, here we go. Good luck, everybody. Oh, wrong button. Dang it. There we go. Rock Daddy, you were the guy that just left. He's like, I'm leaving. Well, you're a winner. You're a winner, Rock Daddy. So you got to text me. You got to text this phone number, wherever. This phone number right down here, 415-952-3263. Text that number, and I will send you. You're winning. Although I think you left. You're not even here. But this is yours. All right. And again, you guys. Tone Chaser by Steve Rosen. Steve will be doing a book signing and discussing his book January 9th at Book Soup in Hollywood. I'll be there. Music Therapy Laz will be there. So come out and say hi to us. And again, that's on a Tuesday, so that'll be taking the place of this show, January 9th. I think it's a Tuesday. I think that's what I read. But anyway.
Yeah. Good luck to you, sir.
There it is. All right. Well, hey, CJ, thank you so much, man.
No, thank you. Yeah, anytime you want to talk Van Halen, I don't care.
Oh, we do this every Tuesday.
Well, I do it every day.
Oh, right on. Right on, man. Well, hey, it's great to, I mean, we've kind of met. I mean, I have you on Facebook. And, oh, you got to get into my group, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who wants a free book, ebook, obviously. I can't afford that much postage. But yeah, just hit me up anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, you're on Twitter. I think I've got your Substack.
Yeah.
Again, let me throw the Substack in here. You guys can contact CJ here at Substack, and then everywhere. CJ Chilvers.
Yep. Not the Pulitzer Prize guy.
Not yet. When you update this new book, you will be. Definitely.
Of course. If not Nobel Prize, I mean, why not shoot for the top?
Yeah.
All right.
You guys are awesome. And hang on one second, CJ.
Sure.
Hang on one second. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, channel members. You guys are amazing. And thank you again to our latest channel members. You guys, thank you so much for your continued support for this channel and these shows. And I will see you guys tomorrow from the East Bay somewhere. So keep it right here on Johnny Beane TV. All right. Don't hang up, CJ. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Smash that thumbs up. Good night.
Hey everybody, this is Cody Van Halen's mom, and he says you are watching Johnny Beane TV.